Thank you. Thank you for having me here. This is our second trip down here, and it's a great trip. I enjoy coming down here to Morgan City. What I'd like to do is tell you a little bit about what we're going to do as the next governor, and also tell you a little bit about myself. And then I would like to open it up for questions and get some feedback from you as well. Some particulars. I have some general ideas of what we need to do in this state, and I'll speak to those. But I'd like to get some details from you guys as well, and ladies as well. By the way, it's great to see our superintendent here. Education is something I've been very involved with over the years, and I know that's where we're going to move, and I might speak to that later as well, how we can do that as well. When I was asked, the first time I was asked by a reporter, why are you running for governor? And I had one simple answer. We can do better. We can do better. There's no reason why this state shouldn't be leading the South. And that's what we will do. As governor, we will be leading the South. We are going to work on our taxes. We're going to lower our taxes for everyone, not just for business, but individuals. We're going to spend the money wisely. We're going to do everything we can to create an environment that encourages business in Louisiana again. We're going to do something with the legal climate here in Louisiana, which you feel particularly in the oil and gas industry. It is devastating to us, and we're seeing the same thing in manufacturing as well. We're going to get out and we're going to create things to spur our economy. I'm a job creator, been that way for the last 40 plus years. I'm an outsider, I'm an entrepreneur. I've worked with industry, I know what it takes to create jobs. I know what they need to create jobs. The other important thing about that is that we're going to fill those jobs with Louisiana citizens. And we're going to do that we're going to reach out and improve on our vocational training. And we will give our children today and in the future an opportunity to fill those good jobs in Louisiana. Louisiana is blessed. We are so blessed. Coming down here, you can feel it. We are blessed with so many natural resources. God has blessed us. We have fertile soil. We have an agriculture that's none. Compared to none, all over this state as I travel. We have crops that compete everywhere. We have the forest for our forest products. And y'all don't have it here necessarily, unless it's cypress, but we have it. We have it all over the state. And of course, we have the mighty Mississippi River. We have the Atchafalaya River. We have the Delta. We have all of that for the sportsman paradise and seafood that we share here. The Gulf of Mexico included in that. What we have. Then we have this thing they call oil and gas reserves. We're not using them today like we had in the past because of several reasons. We have it here on shore and we have it offshore. And that's what we need to be doing. We need to be taking full advantage of that. That's what we're going to do as governor. We're going to take advantage of what God has blessed us with. We're going to create jobs and we're going to fill those jobs with our citizens through vocational training, through K through 12 improvement, to articulating between the K through 12, the community technical colleges, and the 4 universities. I won't go into great detail there, but I spent the last 12 years really working on those things to fill those jobs with our citizens. We've kind of abandoned that over the last 20 or 30 years, and we're getting back to that again. But you got to create the jobs. You got to have a governor that's an outsider, that brings business skills to the job, not controlled by special interests, particularly, I hate to say it, but it's the trial lawyers that's funding this government today. We've got to have someone who's going to bring those business skills here, knows what a budget looks like, knows how to build a budget. Just things like, why don't we start with a zero budget? Why don't we do that like we do in business? I heard someone talking earlier today, they went from 100 to 28 people. I was visiting with Joe. We in business understand that revenues is one thing, and you just can't get overhead growing and say, oh, we need more revenues. That's what we have today in our administration. Just raise taxes. You hadn't heard anyone talk about changing that. We need an outsider. We need an entrepreneur. We need someone who's going to bring those skills to that governor's job. And that's what I'm here for. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in this area of North Baton Rouge in a blue-collar family of 7 children. My dad worked at Standard Oil, eventually become ExxonMobil. He rode a bike to work for 30 years so my mother would have a car to take care of us children at home. We had a frame house, like most of everybody my age, had a frame house, one bathroom, and an attic fan. Didn't know what an air conditioner was. Since I was 15 years old, I've had a job. My oldest brother got me a job in construction at 15 years old. Back then, you could work construction if you had a driver's license. And I worked construction, worked through high school in the summers, worked almost full-time during the school years in LSU, paid my way through college, got a degree in construction, went to work for someone else, built my own homes, used the equity out of that house to go into business with some other people when I was 26. And then, when I was 40, my youngest brother, who's an electrical engineer, was working for me at the time. He and I started the business that we have today. We've been very blessed. We founded that business on integrity and treating others like we wanted to be treated. And as a result of that, today we employ over 3,300 families. We had revenues last year of $363 million. Our home office is in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where we started. We have an office in Lake Charles, Louisiana, Beaumont, Texas, and League City, Houston. We're very, very blessed. Now, I'll tell you about my personal life. My wife and I are both widowed. We've been married for 12 and a half years. I was married to my first wife for 35 years. We're both widowed. Between us, we have 7 married children, all doing wonderful, all stable, treating our grandchildren well, loving and nurturing our grandchildren and teaching about Christ. We have 24 grandchildren. We're so blessed. I've been to so many dance recitals and birthdays and baptisms and you can name it. And I don't know if y'all familiar with the Nutcracker here, but I've been to the Nutcracker so many times. You know, I tell the story, you start out as a lamb. They got the little face sitting up there, and there's 40 of them out there. You got to pick out your granddaughter. It's not easy. Number 4 from the left, and they switch them up. But anyway, this past year I had one as a ballerina and 2 as a lamb. So it's all great. But we're very blessed. What's happening, though, is that I'm sitting there being with my grandchildren, and I feel so much love for them, but so much gratitude to God, how He's blessed us. All 24 of our grandchildren are perfect. They're healthy. All of them that are school age, we are blessed enough to send them to a Christian school, mostly Catholic schools in the Baton Rouge area, in Lafayette area. We're so blessed. And I'm sitting there so grateful to God, and He taps me on the shoulder, and He says, Eddie, what about the 130,000 plus that I have in D&F schools in Louisiana? What about their future? What are you going to do about their future? And I got to the point where I couldn't sleep at night. And I went back to my wife and I told her, I said, baby, I can't sleep at night. What do you think about me running for governor? Did not go over too good, folks. She reminded me, she said, you know something? You're in your late 60s. And at the time, we had 23 grandchildren. We ought to be playing with our grandchildren. What are you thinking? I said, well, baby, I got to the point now where I go to a function and we're sitting there with all these beautiful children. I'm so full of gratitude to God, and He just keeps tapping me on the shoulder and saying, what about mine? What about my 130,000? I said, she said, okay, let me think about it. So I went back to her a little while later and I asked her, I said, can you really think about it again? Because I went off and tried to figure out who else is going to run for governor that would do what we need, an outsider, an entrepreneur, didn't need the job, willing to do whatever it took to get this state on where it deserves to be, number 1 in the South. Couldn't find anyone. Went through the list. We have too many politicians want to run for it. We need somebody to come in there with a whole different attitude, skill set. So I went back to her again. I told her, I said, look, I'm still struggling with this. Would you mind praying on it? So I must have got to her and she started thinking about all the blessings because she's very faithful too. She came back to me about 2 months later and said, okay, we're in. So that's why I'm here. It's about my faith. It's about making Louisiana number 1 in the South like it should be. It's about jobs for our citizens. It's about a future for our grandchildren and the next generation. We have so much here in Louisiana that we need to take full advantage of. And it's going to take someone that's got the tenacity and the skills to do it. We cannot be controlled by special interest. We got to put our citizens. It just grates at me when I see John Bell's signs up there. It says, people before politics. And I'm saying, you got to be kidding me. People before politics. That's not what we have today, folks. We need someone who's going to put you first. Hard-working people that get up every morning, go to work, pay your taxes. We're going to have a transparent government. We're going to have efficient government. We're going to do things right. There's no telling how much waste that we're going to uncover and how we're going to move forward. I've heard so many things now, people saying, well, we don't have money for this, don't have money for that. In business and in your home, when you sit down every year, you don't say, I spent $20,000 last year, we got to add 2% to it. You start from zero. That's what we're going to do in government. We're going to sit down with these agencies and we're going to say, we're going to start with zero. Let's figure this out. We're going to see what we're paying for. We're going to spend the money wisely. And we might have some money left over to give for dredging a channel that's going to bring jobs to Louisiana, or fix a bridge that we need that's getting ready to fall down, or put into our infrastructure and leverage it with the government, this federal government. There's so many opportunities out there we're going to have to take, and that's what it's going to take. Someone is willing to do it and not just listen. Now, I've stepped up, and I don't know if I should mention this, but I've stepped up and committed. There's three things that God has given everyone in this room, and that is talent, time, and treasure. I'm here to tell you that I'm taking 40 plus years of business experience and entrepreneur experience, and I'm investing it. And I'm doing this full time. You got my time, you got my talents, and I put up quite a bit of my own treasure. Because I don't need to have special interest funding my project. I'm reaching out to people to put up, join me, be invested in it, invest your talent, your time, and your treasure. And we can make Louisiana where it needs to be, the #1 state in the South. There's no reason why. Now I would like to hear from you, if you don't mind, any questions you might have. Thank you for listening. Appreciate it. Where you at, Joe? You had some questions earlier.
I got one for you.
All right, this Joe.
Yeah, the other Joe. What about, we hear some talk that there's possibility, with the infrastructure, about getting a new bridge or a loop around Baton Rouge. And what are your thoughts on, why don't we do like Texas does and toll the thing and get it built? And just go from there. I mean, we're so afraid to toll anything down here, but yet we don't have the money supposedly to build anything.
So good. You heard the question. Why don't we use tolls? Why don't we use public-private partnerships?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll give you an example. I was in Lake Charles a week or so ago. They put a committee together, a task force together, to work on a new bridge in Lake Charles. You may have heard that. They spent 15 months on it. They came back with a plan that would not cost the state a penny. They figured it out. These are some talented people like yourselves, business people, engineers. Brought it to the governor and to the Department of Transportation. They had every excuse in the world why not to do it. That's not going to happen, folks. That's not going to happen as this government. We're going to sit there and we'll say, everything's on the table. Everything's on the table. We got a problem, we're going to address it. Does that answer your question? In other words, Baton Rouge has a serious problem there, but they don't address it. You have to get out and be willing to challenge people and listen to people. Bring them together and say, we got to fix the problem. And I know we're not all going to agree on the first round or two, but we're going to make it happen. It's unacceptable to be stuck in traffic, watch our bridges collapse, watch people lose millions of dollars, millions of hours stuck in traffic. We're not going to have it. I don't answer your question. The other thing is, just to speak a little bit, we spend approximately $250 million of state dollars on bridges and roads, highways. And then we get that matched by the federal government to the tune of, we get another, it comes up to about $650 million a year. That's what we're spending on our roads and bridges. We have a backlog over $13 billion, and we have $15 billion of new projects. We're never going to get there, folks, if we leave the politicians to this. the career politicians, the tax and spend politicians. And in this case here, we have a trial lawyer. We're not going to get there. It's time to get an outsider. It's time to get a business person who doesn't accept status quo. You know, you're not an entrepreneur at 26 years old. You don't start all over again at 40 years old, invest everything you ever made with 4 children in school, if you're not focused and understand how to get somewhere. You don't. And that's what we need. We need someone that's going to be able to do that. And just not take no for an answer. You know, I was talking to the ones about the bridge in Lake Charles, and I'm expanding a little bit too much here. But their deal is, us in business, we sit there and we say, okay, we got to have this bridge finished in 2 years, 3 years. Let's say it's 2 years. That is the end result. That's what you got to be. And then you back up and you look at what's on that critical path that's stopping. But if it's permitting or it's financing or whatever it is, you start working on that today. You just don't get one thing. You'll never build a house if you go out there and finish the slab first and didn't plan on how you're going to get the studs up and when you're going to get the roof up. You're just not going to do that. We need that kind of attitude in government. And we need a governor that can do that, and that's what I'll do. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Where do you stand, or have you taken a position on a constitutional convention for the state of Louisiana to rewrite our Constitution?
Good question. Y'all heard that about the Constitution? I would say this. I would like to see us have a limited constitutional convention because we got some structural problems we have to fix, and you can't just keep pecking at it, you know. And it's going to be revenues and taxation. It's going to be local government. It's going to be elected officials and state employees and education. Those 4 areas is the areas that I want to concentrate on in the Constitution. And we got to make some serious changes there, but you got to do it all at one time. If you're going to attack revenues, you can't just go in there and take, you know, industrial tax exemption program and change it, because you have other things you have to do. Have lower taxes and other things. You have sales tax. How we doing is income tax. So you have to look at it totally. But I agree. I would like to see us have a limited constitutional convention. Along that line, right now we have a fairly conservative. We have a conservative House. And we're out recruiting people, not any longer, I'm running for office now, but before, and I've already spent my dollars and cents supporting it, to get it more conservative. We're out recruiting good candidates to serve in the House. We have some good ones in the House going to the Senate. And where I'm going with this is that we're going to have a better Senate than we had today. The House today, the Senate today might be a little pink. It's not red. With me as governor and a much more conservative Senate and House, we can make the changes that we need in the legislative side and the Constitution side. And it's going to need a good governor, a strong governor like me, that's going to push this through and make it happen, but also make sure we support good delegates to that convention. Because you got to be careful there. You just don't let it happen. And next thing you know, you got something that you wish you wouldn't got started. Answer your question, sir?
If I could make one suggestion.
Please.
No sitting members of the legislature are allowed to be delegates. Guys like us need to be delegates.
Very good comment. And that'll be addressed in how they had a bill last year by Neil Aberson, and he was very cooperative, so we're going to go back and look at that. It won't happen this session, obviously, but the first year that I'm governor, we will address that and make sure we have people that's going to bring the right mindset to it.
Thank you, sir.
Other questions? That was easy. Any particulars? Yes, sir.
I'd like to see you address CPRA and some of their current projects and everything. I think some of them need to be reevaluated, how some of the funding's coming down. Some of them are from 2017, master plan 2012. Some of them are outdated, need to be revisited and looked at and go a different direction.
I'm not real familiar with what you're referring to. Is it coming down from the Fed you're talking about?
No, it's coming down from the state. It comes from the BP oil spill settlement.
Oh,
The state received about $7 billion. The state will receive about $700 million for the next 15 years. And it's used for coastal restoration. It's not going even close to the general fund or anything like that. It's strictly a coastal restoration project.
Right. That's a big program, and I'm gonna be very candid, I'm not on top of that at all. But I do know this, that program needs to be looked at and evaluated just like we do our business. And if we, nothing, you cannot put a plan in place and say, okay, over the next 10 years, this is what we're gonna do every year, and this is the money we're gonna spend, and never touch it. It doesn't work that way. So my idea there is to bring somebody in to make sure they're looking at it, get the input from folks like yourself, and make sure we're spending it wisely, it's effective, and if we need to make some changes, let's make the changes. That would be my approach to anything, but that in particular, it's just a big, big program that needs to be looked at, because there's, lawsuits are coming from it because, anyway, there's a lot happening there, and it's billions of dollars. And that goes back to you earlier, if you match with the Corps $2 million, you get your dredge. I mean, we ought to have money come, anyway. We ought to have plenty of money. Just it's how you set your priorities in life. Anyone else? All right. I would say this. Again, we need to get rid of this governor. I need your help. Be active. Use your talent, your time, and your treasure to do so. Uh-oh.
I just have one question. What do you do about the legacy lawsuits that is killing the oil fields?
Legacy lawsuit, that's the first time I heard that. I'm kidding, of course. I'm going to do everything I possibly can as governor to reverse what we have today by this governor. He is encouraging parishes to sue the oil company and kill jobs in this St. Mary's Parish, and not just here, all over the South and up North Louisiana as well, particularly in the South, but that's where we have the problem with the legacy lawsuits. I'm going to do just the opposite. I'm going to discourage it. I'm going to do everything I can from a standpoint of executive order. I'm going to sit there and educate the public on the jobs that we're losing and the revenues that we're losing in our state treasurer because of these legacy lawsuits. And we're going to get it fixed. Everything. But the big deal there is what power I have as governor is an executive order, meeting with the parish presidents, and being very forceful and discouraging any of this, like he's done just the opposite. And then I'm going to go after the public and explain to the public what we're losing. Thousands of jobs are being lost to feed these greedy trial lawyers that are making up these lawsuits. And if you're in the room, trial lawyer, I'm sorry. And that's, not going to happen. And we're going to change that around. I'm going to educate the public. And while I'm on that subject, you know that our core insurance in Louisiana is twice what it is most elsewhere else. I mean, ride up and down and count the signs. My body man over there, that's his hobby. He's 66, from Baton Rouge to Lake Charles. Body injury, plaintiff attorneys. We got to fix that. I don't think the citizens looking at their car insurance realize they're paying 2 or 3 times more than our neighbors are. We're going to fix that as well. But the legacy lawsuit, that's how we're going to challenge it. Thank you. Appreciate y'all's time.